Throughout history, men have dominated narratives of violent crime. But when women defy societal norms, the outcomes are unprecedented, and their reactions to the consequences are equally remarkable. Delve into the stories of these notorious female convicts as they react to receiving life sentences.
This verdict reads, we the jury find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder as included in count 1. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Ms. Murphy, is that your verdict? Mr. Aldridge, is that your verdict?
On the 22nd of January 2016, two people, Eddie Tate II and his girlfriend Edwina Thomas, were shot and killed at the Sycamore Lake Apartments in Memphis in the Westchester Circle Block parking lot. The culprit was 19-year-old Shelby Isaac. Isaac had allegedly met with Tate earlier to buy $250 worth of hair weaves and later called him back to set up another meeting under the guise of buying more. However, on meeting with Tate at the apartments, Isaac decided that she wanted her money back from the initial purchase. Tate had pulled up with his girlfriend Thomas, who was around 8 weeks pregnant at the time, unaware of what Isaac had planned for him. And as they got to where Isaac was standing, she pulled out a gun and opened fire on the car, killing them both. Once authorities arrived on the scene, they discovered Tate's body stretched out on the pavement with multiple gunshot wounds, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Thomas, however, was alive and rushed to the hospital, but she and her unborn baby weren't able to survive the injuries due to her condition.
When you follow the credible and unbiased evidence in this case, it does not lead you to Shelby Isaac.
Isaac was eventually found and arrested, but her defense laid claims that she was innocent as there was no physical evidence tying her to the crime. However, one person did eventually place her at the scene: co-defendant Victoria C. According to C's testimony, she had driven Isaac to the apartments earlier that day and later saw her get out of a car to approach Tate's vehicle. She further disclosed that she had seen Isaac brandishing a black gun and had run away at the sound of the first shot. She later went back to pick Isaac up, at which point Isaac confessed to her. Isaac's attorney tried to brush off C's allegations due to reported inconsistencies in her statements and claimed Isaac had no previous criminal records in a bid to prove the innocence of his client. However, there was DNA evidence linking Isaac to the crime from fingerprints found on a receipt in Tate's car. Witnesses also said Isaac had blood on her clothes and a lot of cash on her, shortly after the couple had been murdered. Tate's family members begged for justice as they pleaded for the incarceration of his murderer. Isaac was subsequently charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, 1 count of reckless homicide, and 1 count of criminally negligent homicide of the unborn baby. During the sentencing hearing in November 2016, as the judge began to read the verdict, Isaac silently had her head bowed as tension surrounded the courtroom. Following the first guilty verdict, Isaac collapsed for a few minutes and had to be revived before being carried out of the courtroom, where she began to scream and cry "Mommy," as her family wept while jurors covered their faces and some even cried. Isaac was eventually found guilty of all charges on the 19th of November 2017. As a result, she was sentenced to 30 years in the Tennessee Prison for Women, with a release date set for September 2045, although she would be eligible for parole in June 2041. While Isaac may have ended the life of an unborn child, this next convict was ready to end a life for the sake of her own young child. But in the end, it wasn't worth it, and she was made to face the court for her sinister motives.
K. McDavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Diana Lovejoy, a fitness instructor and YouTuber, was in a strained relationship with her ex-husband, Greg Mulvihill, as the pair battled over details concerning their contentious divorce, including the custody of their young son. Lovejoy, born on the 26th of October 1972, had dated Mulvihill for a year before the couple got married in 2007. However, the marriage faced problems right from the start, as Lovejoy suffered numerous miscarriages before she finally had a son. And within 7 years of their marriage, Lovejoy had filed for divorce. The long court case following the divorce filing only strained the relationship between the couple further, as the initial full custody and child support benefits granted to Lovejoy for their then 3-year-old son was changed for the couple to share instead. Lovejoy was also required to pay Mulvihill $120,000 as she kept their family house in Carlsbad, California. Lovejoy did pay Mulvihill the required sum, but she never wanted to share custody of her only child, so, in a surprising twist, she hatched a sinister plan to execute her ex-husband. On the 4th of September 2016, Mulvihill received a call from someone pretending to be a private investigator who threatened him with alleged evidence of his mistreatment towards his wife, which could be used against him in court. The caller was able to convince Mulvihill to go to a remote location near Rancho Santa Fe to collect the evidence. And on reaching there with his friend Jason around 11 p.m., Mulvihill was shot in his side after spotting someone in the bushes. However, the bullet missed his heart and he was able to survive the shooting. Investigations into the attempted murder were conducted, and it was quickly concluded from the evidence found, such as cell tower data, that Lovejoy had been involved in the attempted murder. The man behind the gun was also discovered to be former Marine, as well as Lovejoy's gun instructor and lover, Weldon McDavid, who had made a run for it after his failed attempt. The AR-15 rifle he used was later found in his garage. After the pair were arrested a week later, it was revealed that Lovejoy had paid McDavid $2,000 to assassinate her ex-husband to get him out of the picture with concerns over their son. During a court hearing, Lovejoy alleged that Mulvihill had mistreated her and her young son. However, both Mulvihill and the prosecutors disapproved of the claims. Investigators discovered surveillance footage of Lovejoy from less than a month before the attempted murder, where she purchased the burner phone which McDavid had used to call Mulvihill on that fateful night. And on the 13th of November 2016, a jury found Lovejoy and McDavid guilty of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Video footage captured from the courtroom showed Lovejoy's unexpected reaction when the verdict on her charges was pronounced. Immediately, the guilty verdict was read. Lovejoy, who had been staring blankly ahead while sitting beside her attorney, suddenly slumped as her head hit the desk. There were murmurs of both shock and concern around the courtroom, as it had appeared that Lovejoy had gone unconscious. Court officers had to rush to lay her on the floor before she was eventually rushed to the hospital, where it was confirmed that she had fainted. Lovejoy was eventually sentenced in December to 26 years in prison, while McDavid received a 50-year sentence for being the one who pulled the trigger on Lovejoy's husband. While Lovejoy's murder attempt may have failed, this next convict literally took matters into her own hands. The result was a horrific love story which left people questioning the limits of evil achievable by a sociopathic woman with a motive to kill.
Can you give me a reaction to the verdict, Jodi? Is there anything you want to say to the Alexander family at all?
On the 4th of June, 2008, a man named Travis Victor Alexander was found dead in his shower with 27 stab wounds, a slit throat, and a gunshot wound to the head. The culprit? His on and off girlfriend, Jodi Arias. Arias was born on the 9th of July 1980 in Salinas, California, and was a high school dropout and aspiring photographer who had to work odd jobs to make ends meet. She met Travis at a work conference in Nevada in September 2006, and the couple began dating a few months later in February 2007. However, aside from a few months when Arias moved to Arizona to live closer to Travis, the relationship was mostly long distance, and they often took breaks in between, even if they did maintain contact. Friends of Travis who were aware of the relationship reportedly had a negative opinion of Arias, often noting the tumultuousness of the relationship, as well as Arias' worrying behavior. On the evening of the 4th of June 2008, Travis was expected to be in the audience for an important conference call. However, he never showed up, and the following day, Arias, now sporting a different hair color, attended business meetings for the same conference in Salt Lake City, Utah. Arias also left several calls and voicemails for Travis over the following days, as if to establish an alibi. And she needed the alibi because a few days later, on the 9th of June, Travis had remained unreachable and it began to worry a group of his friends, so they decided to go to his home to check up on him. After finding a key to Travis's bedroom, his friends entered to find large pools of blood in the hallway to the master bedroom. And when they got into the bathroom, they were met with the shocking scene of Travis's mutilated body. Almost immediately, the friends began to suspect Arias, as evidenced by a 911 call they made, as they apparently knew about Arias' antics. Police arrived and conducted a search of Travis's home where they found a damaged digital camera, which contained disturbing photos including one taken of Travis in the shower on the day of the murder, and another which showed an individual, believed to be Travis, bleeding profusely on the bathroom floor. DNA from a bloody palm print was also discovered along the wall, and tests revealed that the blood had belonged to Arias and Alexander. And on the 9th of July 2008, Arias was indicted by a grand jury in Arizona for the first-degree murder of Travis before getting arrested 6 days later. Following a long deliberation process where Arias had pleaded not guilty and provided multiple different accounts of the incident, she finally admitted to killing Travis in self-defense in 2010, and her trial was set to commence in December 2012. During her February trial, Arias, who took the stand in her own defense, made a series of confessions about her relationship with Travis, especially the unorthodox sexual relations they had. She claimed that she was a victim of mistreatment, and her defense also claimed that there was some evidence to suggest that Travis was physically and mentally abusive. However, the jury wasn't buying the allegations, and on the 8th of May, 2013, Arias was unanimously found guilty of first-degree murder, to the joy of Travis's family as well as the crowd outside the courtroom. Meanwhile, Arias had burst into tears as she looked around the courtroom. Following the conviction, it was now time for the sentencing, and the prosecution was pushing for the death penalty for Arias. Due to multiple controversies surrounding the jury and prosecution, a sentencing retrial was set for October 2014, and again to April 2015. Finally, on the 13th of April 2015, Arias' long trial came to an end as she was found guilty of first-degree murder. Just before her sentencing, Arias had said that she personally believed that death would bring her untold peace and freedom, but that for her family she couldn't accept a death penalty. She also expressed remorse over her actions and apologized to Travis's family. Arias was subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, escaping the death penalty. She also hid her face as she was questioned while she was escorted out of the courtroom. There was something of a media frenzy surrounding Arias' trial, which led to multiple adaptations and documentaries, as well as an appeal from her attorneys. However, the sentence was upheld due to the overwhelming evidence available. Today, Arias is held at the Arizona Department of Corrections, where she is expected to spend the rest of her life. Take a seat as we run through Marcel Hill's unfortunate encounter with our next suspect.
You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead.
In 2013, Kamama Gamut was living with her 38-year-old boyfriend, Marcel Hill, in Jackson, Mississippi. The pair had opposing personalities, as Marcel, who suffered with multiple mental and physical disabilities, was described to be a friendly, childlike man and worked at a fast food joint. On the other hand, Gamut, who had a difficult childhood living in 13 different foster homes, was known to be a substance user who had an abusive nature and a tendency for violent outbursts. Gamut had previously been arrested for assaulting an ex-boyfriend and would bring the same mistreatment behavior to her relationship with Hill, often bullying and seriously assaulting him. One time, Gamut stabbed Hill with a knife and stitched up the wound afterwards. She also punctured his lung in another assault incident, and in a third incident, she hit him in the head with a hammer. On all three occasions, Hill chose not to report Gamut to the authorities, and he wouldn't live to rue his inactions. On the 18th of May, 2013, Gamut and Hill got into a brutal physical fight where, in a fit of rage, Gamut absolutely violated Hill, bludgeoning and stabbing him multiple times with a knife and frying pan till he was unconscious and cutting the torso of his dead body open. Hearing the racket coming from their home, a neighbor called 911, and when police arrived, they were met with a house in complete disarray. Furniture had been smashed. The knife and frying pan, as well as Gamut, were covered in Hill's blood. Hill had been stabbed 11 times, but remarkably, Gamut had sustained no injuries and was only slurring her speech after she was found. Gamut was swiftly arrested, but claimed to authorities that she had been asleep in the living room when someone had repeatedly hit her over the head, which led her to defend herself from the unidentified attacker before she eventually realized that it was her boyfriend. During the court hearing in March 2014, Gamut's claims were easily dismissed due to the many holes in her story. On the 16th of April 2014, Gamut was found guilty of the charges and sentenced by a Jackson County Circuit judge to a life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, Gamut's reaction to the sentencing would spark a series of outbursts in the court, especially from the judge. Before the verdict was pronounced, Gamut showed no signs of remorse, merely rolling her eyes and laughing as Hill's family read out an emotional letter to her. The presiding judge reacted to this by saying he hoped Gamut died in prison, and that if Mississippi was a death penalty state, she would have been handed the electric chair. Coming up next, we have another thrilling installment of life sentences that you won't want to miss.